Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News. It's Friday, July 25th. It is 12:30 in the afternoon, and we're going to be out of the area for a few days. So this is the last one. Let's end on a happy note. And the happy note is the cancellation of the Stephen Colbert show. Not because it wasn't funny, not because it was a hate fest, not because it was everything dark and ugly about what the left was becoming, because you were able to see the clear transition from Jon Stewart's frat boy champagne socialism going towards the dark levels of mindless hate, which the left now occupies, all in a small arc of time. And you're going to hear a lot of things about it, 99% of which are not true. What is true is at one point, the Colbert Show held the top slot in late night against a bunch of other really terrible shows who were following the same type of formula. But since Colbert had been training as a parody first, then as the Colbert Show, and then as this, he had his shtick, he had his fans, he had a built-in way to keep ahead of the curve. However, it was a dying genre. The market was getting more and more compressed, and they were hemorrhaging $40 million a year. So that's just not a sustainable number. It's dead weight on a network that was already having problems because it was bleeding from ad revenue collapse. You have to understand major television channels are dying in general, are really dying in general. The internet is destroying them. Their their market is 90% the LCD community. All right. Lowest common denominator. You can't afford paid channels. So this is what you're left with. And that is why they are still relying on these revenue streams. And at 40 million of a loss, when it brought in whatever it brought in revenue, I think it was bringing in 70 million, but it was losing 40 million. So it was a $110 million show, let's figure. Where was the money? Was it in the production value? Absolutely not. Did most of it go into Stephen Colbert's pocket? Absolutely yes. So as he was being canceled for financial reasons, Jon Stewart, and you remember Jon Stewart was also a producer of the show and has a piece of Colbert, comes out of nowhere, which was the other room, and claims it was cancel culture because Stephen had stood up to Donald Trump. Not really. Once again, it was the financial model. He was being, it's out with the old. Remember, Phil Donahue used to be the most popular show on television, and he was kicked off because that ended up going away. The View is also getting to the point where they realize their days are numbered, because basically, if you're not spewing hate and mental distress, you can't be on The View. And celebrities of all types, they're not, no, the six that are right, the three that are center, and the 4,000 that are on the left, are afraid to go on a show where they don't know what they're going to be attacked about. And that's what happens. They just attack people on these shows. And who the hell would go on? If you don't like celebrities, don't watch celebrity shows, right? Or watch Graham Norton from England. He actually has decent shows. You can watch them online, right? He knows what's happening. So, yeah, this has all been a big bunch of nonsense. It was not an authoritarian crackdown. It was simple economics. The show failed to evolve. It failed to resonate beyond a certain group of angry young men and the 4 or 5 girls that are in polyamorous relationships with them. And it failed to pay for itself. So that's that. And the show wasn't that important. And here's why I can say this. Nobody said, hey, and this has happened in a couple of shows. I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but I'm sure those of you watch a lot of TV or a lot of cable, certain shows have been canceled in the past and then taken onto the internet or taken onto cable and continued their life, obviously at a different level of money. That did not happen here, because for these champagne socialists, it's all about the money. They will play the game as long as they are getting paid. The day they have to take a pay cut is the day they're going to walk away and play the victim. So he'll probably come out with a book, In a couple of weeks, Joe Biden is getting a book deal, as you know, for $10 million. Who's going to write that? Who knows? All right. So here's a guy who basically has a staff of however many people who would attack his uh, his customers, will say, because you were there to deal with him. It was a quid pro quo situation on Colbert show, right? A number of them are the same way. I'm selling a book or a service or a television show. I'm going to come on here and be your trained monkey for an hour. On this show, it was, I'm going to beat you up. Now, there had been stories in the old days from various shows when celebrities were for real that said, if you come on here and make me look like an asshole, I am going to beat the shit out of you backstage. And that calms it down. But why should you have to do that when you were there not for his fans, but for your fans? That has been the problem with these shows in the last 5 to 10 years. You will see it with these comedians who think they're comedians, who then go and put on a podcast show. They think you're there for them, and you as a celebrity are fodder to make that guy look better. The reason that people watch your show is because you have good celebrities on. Even Joe Rogan, at his height, had very interesting people on, had very interesting celebrities on. He wasn't doing it to make himself the bigger guy of the two, which you see with people like the Sean Ryan show, right? Because he's gone in his own direction as an op, and that's fine, right? He's I guess an inorganic spinoff, but we're not going to worry about that. The point of the matter here is Colbert did himself in. He's crying like a bitch. And that's just basically showbiz. Did you ever hear that term? That's showbiz. So that's showbiz. However, he got a second little gust of oxygen in the form of, I don't know if it's mentioned, I haven't seen the whole episode, I've seen parts of it, in the South Park season premiere, season 27. That's how long that show's been on. Still does some good stuff. I'm not going to down them. I understand where they come from. They are far from anything considered conservative. They're not very even centrist. I wouldn't even consider them Kennedy Democrats. And that's fine. They're putting on a show. I don't care what they do in their personal lives. And they bring it forward on this. They've attacked organized religions in the past, which is fine. The whole Book of Mormon thing, right? That was a big deal. Colorado in general has been very anti republicanism. Well, everybody's anti-republicanism, Mitch McConnell style. But you know what I'm saying? They are very much a product of their state, for lack of a better term. The problem that you have with a show like South Park is it's very, very fast turnaround. I think they turned the show around in about a week. Okay. Now, that was what always kept them better than Simpsons in a way, was Simpsons took months to get the show done. South Park can be topical, do it in a week. They also didn't really use, once in a while, Simpsons has guest stars on, so you didn't have to coordinate that nonsense. Simpsons was a much more corporate, quote unquote, corporate show than South Park was. Although South Park is just as corporate, it didn't have the appearance of it because you could go to work in a t-shirt, which is bullshit, but that's fine. Okay. So this one has, it's called Sermon on the Mount, which is funny in and of itself because you're going to have religious overtones at that point. It has Trump in it. Trump's naked a bunch. Trump's got a little dick. He's in bed with Satan, actually in bed with Satan. And, he goes on and on and on like that. Jesus is in it. Jesus is being brought back into the schools. The character PC Principal, if you remember him, he is now like got Jesus and he's going that direction as well. The idea, I guess, would be to show that the pendulum is swinging back. The issue, as we all said, with the pendulum swinging back is we don't want it to swing back too far. So what normally happens is it's going as far as it can now to the left. It's still going, by the way. It's lost speed. It's going to hang for a minute and then it comes back. It's going to go farther to the right and then hopefully return to the center where everybody will be happy. Okay. This is just another show I think if I was Trump, I would be happy to be on it. This is a very big show. It's in its genre, in its audience. These guys just got $1.5 billion, I think, because they're streaming their shows and over because you don't have to go out and build new content. You don't have to gamble on it. The show is there. But once again, South Park is going to fall into the same type of issue is there's definitely a sunset to this show. You know, you followed it since you've been how old, right? Some people have followed it since they were 10 years old. I remember when it came out when we had cable, because that was one of the reasons people got cable was to watch us on Comedy Central. I think it was Comedy Central. And haven't seen the show in years when we got rid of televisions, right? So it's still I've seen parts of some of them. They're all still pretty funny. Some of them are more over the top than the other. This is not a big deal. Everyone's hung up on Donald Trump's penis in this, which it's like it's not his penis. I don't care if he's got a tiny personally, why do you care if he's got a tiny dick? Did you intend to suck it or take it in your ass? That would be the only two things that these gay guys would worry about, right? Or as a woman, where are you going to get it? That's the same thing. We know that he has had issues with sex in the past, and that's fine. It's nothing the guy's going to be able to do anything about one way or another, right? So it's funny. If you want to really play it out the way it looks, Trump is topping Satan for all you gay fellas out there. So Trump, once again, topping the Prince of Darkness. Not a bad job to have, I guess you could say, right? So there's my nod to the LGBTQ community for today. It's not a bad show. It's always kind of funny. Their interpretation of religion is always a bit off due to the fact that they're atheists and they are at least decent, not like Penn Jillette atheists, where Penn Jillette just has to beat you over the head with the shit. These guys are sitting in the background. They find religion silly, and that's nice. I'm glad they do. It's their life. They can do what they want to do with it. The problem being when he does shows like this where they put in about Trump canceling a show or this going on or this level of censorship. Well, we know that doesn't happen. The NPR thing is done because it's done. All right. That was coming. That had nothing to do with the Colbert show. So a lot of things are getting mixed into this because they're trying to cover a couple of things at the same time. And that's where the integrity issue, not that it needs integrity as a cartoon, but the problem is some of the people watching it are actually getting their political motivation from this cartoon. Yeah, truly. Okay. So that's the only thing with that. Otherwise, funny stuff always is. The relaxed guy thing, that's the Saddam Hussein deal. And I guess the only thing Trump would, well, see, Trump didn't overthrow the Iraqi government, so it wouldn't upset him that Saddam had a bigger dick than he did. But other than that, it looks like a good show. Nobody gets upset about this except for people that are living revenge fantasies through South Park cartoons are like, well, Matt and Trey, they showed that Trumpster a lesson. We'll show him that we'll show his real penis to everybody and blah, blah, blah. And who gives a goddamn, really? It's just become so ridiculous at this point to see this. And then here we are spending time talking about it. But just a few of the things that should have come up, because my thought was they put this out because the Trump lawsuit was against one of the companies that was involved with South Park coming back onto line. So I had to see whether or not the Trump lawsuit, because that was stopping the merger of the companies. And here it didn't directly affect, supposedly did not directly affect South Park's contract, but you never know. Well, because that was the lawsuit was stopping the merger of these two corporations. It was Paramount and Sun something or other. It doesn't matter. So it would have been payback if it was the other way around. If the Trump lawsuit had been causing that to not come together and them not to get their 1.5 billion, then it would have been a payback issue, and it would have had nothing to do with being morally superior or morally right. It would have just been the usual dirty shit. The issue, again, of course, like I said, you decide what you want about the religion side. Jesus has been a character on there. If you remember their original Spirit of Christmas, I think it was called, I remember when it came out, it was Jesus fighting Santa Claus for who would be in charge of Christmas. I don't know if all the kids had their names yet or not, but that was a short that they did, and then spun it off into South Park. If you get to see that one, I think it's called The Spirit or Meaning of Christmas. Some of you newer guys may not have seen it, or you have. I don't know. I don't care. So anyway, that's about it. So what did we learn? Colbert killed himself. South Park's doing what it always does. South Park is not the champion of liberalism. They are chasing a dollar or the bag, as we would say, $1.5 billion. So at this point, they are untouchable. If they got the 1.5 billion all at one time, which I don't know their contract, nor do I care. It's up to these guys to do what they're doing. You know, they're out there to make fun of things. It's fine. It's the comedians that pretend that they're doing comedy and they're trying to enlighten or provoke thought. And when here they're just regular liberal hit machines, they're the ones that bother me. You know, I remember George Carlin. Carlin, I don't think would have sat in a room with some of these guys knowing that they were just the other side of the establishment coin. You know, that's what I mean. You don't see a lot of really, Patrice O'Neal's dead. There's a lot of guys that were great. And the people that are out there today are just survivors more than being good. They either came from the Rogan pool or they outlived other people that were great in their community and shit like that. So anyway, that's all I got for you. Like I said, have a good weekend. We'll be back like Wednesday or Thursday, something like that. We're going to stay off of a number of these topics. We have some older issues that we want to talk about and more relevant to our community here. We're going to get something together on the Bay of Pigs. We have something on Nixon, a couple other things that helped shape the community and help shape the politics of the United States. And hopefully by then we'll have the other document dump of those 200 documents that Tulsi Gabbard put out. And that's about it. Oh yeah, last but not least, before you continue to cry about the Epstein files, Judicial Watch, go to their page, judicialwatch.com, has already filed a lawsuit asking for all the Trump files under a Freedom of Information Act. They will get the files. It's not like nobody's going to get these files. For those of you who just have to have them, you know, what you should be asking yourself is, are there pictures on those videos of people that we don't know who they are, John Does that have engaged in sexual activity with children? Why aren't they having just that little image of their head or whatever? Why aren't we trying to track those people down? Okay. Everything else you already know about, you know about. If, like they said, if Trump had done something bad, you would have known about it when they were trying to put him in jail last time. These are going to just be regular records. If there had been anything good, it's gone. If you bring Ghislaine Maxwell in, she's going to lie. She's going to do what she has to do to stay alive. She's going to have to do what she has to do to get out of jail. That's what you do when you bring snitches back in. So there you have it. All right. Otherwise, you can get a hold of us here. We're started Substack as well. I don't know what that's doing. You know, the market out there is a wasteland. It's a vast wasteland of good ideas that have failed. And ultimately you end up with having to go to YouTube or something like that, which is a shame. But some of these channels were not bad, you know. The idea was not bad, but they always get tied up in the fact that they want you to pretend that you're going to make money, and you don't make money here. You're doing it for doing it. All right. And that's basically what it's all about. So talk to you later on. Bye.